And Mr. Marks has a question?
Yes. Oh, I did this too loud. You know, I come from pretty much the same background that Seth Rosenfeld comes from. And although not in the family thing, but I started many, many years ago as a handicapper and a better, and I kind of understand all of this. Question I have for the younger generation is very simple. How will you react and how will you respond when you come to the realization, as you will at some point, that you just blew a $100 bet on a horse out for the exercise?
As a person who's done that, so I go to the racetrack with the feeling that this is money that I can lose, which is one of the biggest steps that even a young person can take, is realizing what you can actually bet and what you can't. Do you have the disposable income, which a lot of us don't, but we try to play anyway, to play little by little and get the job done. I try to just let it go. It really, if I dwell in the past, then I missed 2 or 3 races in advance that I could have hit if I didn't dwell on the one that I missed, or the horse that went off stride, or getting nipped at the wire. It happens. You curse under your breath for a little bit, and then you have to move on, because harness racing, when you're handicapping, it is very difficult, but it's also a mind game. If your mind's in the gutter, you might as well just go home, and leave your wallet at the door, because you're not going to hit anything. So if you suffer a bad beat, you just got to move on with everything else and play for the next race. There are 10, 11, 12 races on a card. You can't just dwell over the one you missed.
Thank you. And
Just two quick
Tom
ones real
Crouch,
quick for
Kentuckiana
Steph.
Farm.
To the information that has been talked about here today about how we get information for our handicapping, I know Seth's familiar with this outfit. The Thoroughbreds have a online company called Brisnet. They have tremendous riders, tremendous handicappers. They cover every major race. They'll cover things, as an example, this trainer's percentage of first-time starters, second-time starters. Somebody who's really not a thoroughbred person, I'm on that every day, and I call it the steam. If they have some steam, I'll make a small wager and try to watch the race. There is absolutely no reason why we couldn't have a company like this in standardbred racing. They make a lot of money because Churchill just paid a friend of mine $40 million for this company. And someplace along the line, if we could have something like Brisnet to help these young people be informed and make sound wagers, I think it would really help. One quick question, another for Seth. This is like whipping a $4,000 claimer. How do you feel about the different medication rules in all jurisdictions? I just want to make one other comment. I'm to the point, having owned horses for 43 years, I'm against anything that the federal government wants to regulate. But I think about what I do for a living most of my life, and the SEC and the CFTC regulates me. And the reason I thought about it driving up here, I had a very good friend of mine in Kentucky who's not in the horse business, but a very successful businessman say to me last week, why in the world is Dutro still training horses with all the positives he's had? If I had those many violations in the job I do, I'd be barred for life. And don't you think, from a gambling standpoint, that it's time that we do away with political hacks who are on racing commissions and have a national director with national rules and national penalties?
Yeah, sounds good to me. I don't know. Dutro's been in the news enough. I think people know he got his second clenbuterol positive in Kentucky. He got a whopping 15-day suspension, which he's going to delay, so he could take it at a time when it's more convenient for him. It's a sad state of affairs, and it's a long story. And I'd like, as you know, we talked about what can racing commissions do and what can the Hambletonian Society do, and yes, I'd love to see a national
Racing commissions give up all their power and give it to the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
clean it up.
All right, then we're going to. That's the next thing we'll do. First thing Monday morning, we'll federalize it. All right, but At any rate, thank you so very much. Are there any other questions? Yes, Tom?
Yeah.
Cosentino?
While I still have the young people here, one of the things I think, and when we look about what's wrong with the industry, I think is for the last 25 years, the industry has been talking to itself. It's inbred. And I've watched, this weekend is the X Games. It's about the 12th year. ESPN created this, where now you have all this wild skateboarding, you have kids going crazy, you have the motocross. It's become a major event for them, but it's also, if you go to any neighborhood in suburbia, you see the kids out there with skateboards competing. Mixed martial arts is taking off. I did the PR for Versus, the cable network. It's now getting better ratings than the National Hockey League, mixed martial arts and Versus. A couple of years ago, I was out in Arizona, and I watched Ellen Taylor give her presentation on the Harness Racing Youth League. And I sat next to Mr. Bergstein, and I said, this needs to go into the inner cities. And to me, what I think this sport needs in the future, and I want to throw this idea by the young panelists here, is I think we need to create a separate hybrid of the sport that's not involved with pari-mutuel wagering, but creates a driver's league that gives all the great young athletes that are coming out of high school and college that are not going to play pro a chance to compete, where sponsor colors can be made because they don't have to worry about the gambling aspect, and you make it into a league, but you do it in a different format, make it a racing league that tours the country. It's sponsored on TV, helmet cams. It's something that can be sold to sponsors and sold to TV as a different type of package, but geared to a younger audience. And I want to ask the young panelists, would that be something, if you were a novice watching, would get you involved in a sport?
As you and Tom, like me and you, were speaking about this earlier. I think this will help the sport, because as you see right now, maybe we could do a reality TV show, because that's all around. Everybody watches it. Even if it's the dumbest thing in the world, anybody would just watch it. And you probably get a few viewers on the struggles of, oh, this kid is 19 years old. He's starting to be a driver on a horse. And we see his struggle. We start getting emotional with him. And if he becomes pro, we could follow him, like John said. We could follow somebody and go from there. As she said, Brian Sears. We get somebody that's 19, become a pro, and we follow him from there on out. Be like, oh, we actually know this kid. This kid was struggling when he was younger, trying to get there. Now he's there. We're happy for him. And he could be our Derek Jeter, our this. And I think this would be a great idea. And then you never know who could be there. Anybody that's an athlete knows, oh, I might not go to Major League Baseball. I don't have the skills. To be a driver, you don't have to be the biggest guy. You don't have to be the smallest guy. You don't have to be a jockey to be sure. There's nothing to like limit you from this. So this would be a very great idea for us to actually interact and get to know about the sport and everything.
Okay, thank you very much. And one last question. This will be the last question.
Myron Bell.
And it's a question.
I'd like to make a statement and a question. To the young people.
A quick one, because the paddock judge is really mad at me.
The young people in the industry have to get involved in the game, and they can't see it. Our graphics and pictures on the networks are terrible. You have to know the drivers to recognize them and the horses. So I think that could be improved. Also, the insidious time between races. A lot of people have spoken about shortening the post times between races. You can't, you're losing these people. They're not interested in waiting 20 minutes between races. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your time to our panelists, and we'll go on to the next topic.